Jay here for Stretford, Paddock. This is a special video where we're going to be looking at 10 players Manchester United could sell to generate £280 million for Erik ten Hag this summer, or whoever the new United manager may be if it isn't Erik ten Hag. Joining me for her studio debut, if that's right, is Nalin Mastou, you've been on the channel before loads of times, haven't you?
I have.
Doing prediction videos, all the way from Australia. You've come over to Manchester, and we're grateful to have you here in the studio. It's great to finally meet you as well, because you've sent us loads of good stuff. So we're going to be looking at this sort of shopping list, if you will, or selling list for Erik ten Hag, and we'll have a little bit of a discussion and a debate. Get involved in the comments and let us know what you think, because with FFP we know that you've got to sell to buy now, haven't you? Not just to generate money to spend on the players, but also to balance the books. Yeah, and the annoying thing about United over the past couple of years is how often have we seen a player come in and us actually make value from them and them go on to do better things. Like, I genuinely don't remember the last time a player has... Dan James is the only one we've made a decent amount of money off for the last few years, and you know, I think we got like 29 million for him, was it, that we made about? That's pretty good. Yeah, 20 million profit, which for United is great. But our ability to sell players is terrible. It is shocking. So bad. Excuse me. So we're going to go through some players, some big names in this list. You may agree, you may disagree, Nalin. Let me know what you think. So we'll start off with one player who I think we can get a decent amount for, and also because he's homegrown, it's all profit, is Mason Greenwood. We know the reasons Mason Greenwood could leave United, and he's probably going to leave United. It's not really about his footballing ability, it's about the stuff that happened off the pitch. How much do you think we could get for Mason Greenwood? I think, to be honest, like, since he went over to La Liga now, and he's done pretty well, they seem to really like him, and I think they'll be keen to buy him. I'm looking around the 30 mil mark. I know that's a lot, but I genuinely do think that, you know, he has this sell-on value, and like you mentioned, the reason why he doesn't have a future at United is due to off-the-field issues, but I genuinely think that he's still quality in that regard. Listen, there's no denying that Mason Greenwood is a hugely talented footballer. He's obviously you know, got issues or had issues off the pitch, and he's a trouble footballer. But in terms of his ability, and I think we've seen that at Getafe, where he's been scoring goals, he's been getting assists. And when he played Atletico Madrid, Antoine Griezmann in particular was full of praise for him. He's actually been linked with Atletico, and he's been linked with Barcelona. Also, there's been talk of him staying at Getafe on a permanent deal. You're saying 30 million. Yeah, I'm thinking 30. I would go a little bit higher, you know. I think that attackers, young attackers who can score goals, who can finish like Mason Greenwood can, are in short commodity. And if players can, or his team, sorry, can put aside to the reasons why he's not at United anymore and are willing to buy him, I think you could get a little bit more. I think you get 40 million. So should we split the difference? Say 35 million for Mason Greenwood? That sounds good. Yeah? Yeah. Get involved in the chat and let us know what you think. Another player who's had different issues than Mason Greenwood, shall we say, off the pitch, has been Jadon Sancho. Obviously fell out of Erik ten Hag. He's gone back to Dortmund. He's done okay. He's not set the world alight at Dortmund. I think he's had a couple of assists. He's won a penalty. He's had some performances that have been okay, have been good. Others that have been not so great. Still relatively young. Obviously, it wasn't that long ago where he was one of the most sought-after youngsters in world football. Hasn't really got going at United. Gone back to Dortmund and done okay. Where do you stand on Jadon Sancho? Do you see him going in the summer for starters, or do you think we can get anything for him? I think he should be leaving in the summer. And to be honest, the signing of Jadon Sancho is probably the one that saddens me the most. Like, just remember the hype of when we brought him in and how incredible he was at Dortmund. We really did need a right winger, but unfortunately, to also not be too harsh, but he's also come in to United at a time that's been incredibly disruptive. How many managerial changes, and he's been unsettled in that way. And I think moving over to Dortmund, if they have him back, that's a pretty good option for him at the moment. He's still obviously a young player, so it's not fair to completely count out his career. I'm thinking around the 25 mil mark. 25 mil. I think the thing with Jadon Sancho is, right, you know what he's capable of. So it's whether you might look and you go, if we can get him playing to the best of his ability, there's an amazing player there. He's not someone who's got a low ceiling. He's got a very, very high ceiling. We saw it in his first spell at Dortmund, that final season. I think was it 36 goal involvements in 39 games, which is Lionel Messi type numbers. Helps him get into the Champions League, helps him win the German Cup. I think he scored twice in the final, or he got, I think he did. Had an amazing end to the season in particular. His star was just shining as bright as anyone. And you remember the sort of Bellingham, Haaland, Sancho,
incredible combination.
Trio there, which was looked at as the future of world football. Those two, Bellingham and Haaland, have gone on to smash it. Sancho just gone backwards.
I feel for him, and I feel like obviously it didn't pan out the way he would have wanted at United. Maybe that's because dealing with the intensity of the Premier League was a completely different beast. I think he enjoys more time on the ball, and with his style of play, he likes to hold it up and get others involved as well in attacking build-up. So I see him doing well, and I think the Bundesliga is a perfect fit for him. But you see him going for higher?
You said 25, did you?
Yeah, I said 25.
I think you might get 30 for him, just because we spent 73 million on him. I think a lot depends on how he does towards the end of the season. If he carries on underwhelming, because there's been a couple of performances. I saw him against was it the PSV game? Was it? I think in the Champions League, didn't really do a lot. He's had a couple of games where he hasn't done a lot.
I was going to say, since he went back, he hasn't quite helped himself in that regard. Like, he hasn't been impressive. And
I think that if his season doesn't get going, or doesn't show any sort of consistency, I think you're going to struggle to get anything for him. But I can go 25, maybe 30 million at a push, but depending on what he does between now and the end of the season. Get involved in the comments and let us know whether you agree, disagree, what you think of these valuations, and whether you think these players are going to go anywhere. Casemiro's a funny one. How old is he now, Casemiro? Is he 32 now, Casemiro? Has he just turned 32, 31, 32?
Yeah, definitely.
Obviously, one of the all-time great defensive midfielders, has had an okay season. We've seen the good and the bad from Casemiro. You look at the Brentford game early in the season, woeful. You look at some of the more recent performances. I think against Nottingham Forest, not only got the goal, he was given player of the match. The first half against Manchester City did very well. Second half, not so great. Bit of a mixed bag. If he is linked, or if he does move to a Saudi club, though, they've got bags of money. What do you see happening with Casemiro? A, do you see him going? And B, how much do you think we can get for him?
I think Casemiro is meant. Like, it's hard to disagree with that, considering obviously his track record and however many Champions League he's won. And since he's come to United, if he's proven one thing is that he is a big game player. Like, how many times has he stepped up, scoring the winning goal when we need it? Against Nottingham Forest, as you mentioned, he is aging, ever so slightly. And in midfield, I think with what United need right now, we do need a proper CDM who is able to have those legs. And with Casemiro, I think a lot of the burden is on him to cover a lot of ground. So if he moves on, I don't think it'll be the worst for us. And I do think we'll make a fair bit of money. We should, I still think.
30 million?
I'm thinking around 30 mil, yeah.
Did you say Casemiro's mint, by the way?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you use that word in Australia, or have you just picked that up from me?
I only say mint because of you.
I didn't know that when you said, I thought I just say Casemiro's mint. I thought
it's definitely not Aussie slang.
I remember being Australian. I didn't hear anyone in Perth or Melbourne saying that. It must be a Sydney thing.
I watch you way too much. I've picked up all the Mancunian lingo.
I'm sorry to you. Must be like your mates must be like, what are you on about? When you're like, let's go for a scram.
Did you just say mint? Yeah,
this is mint, and I kid and all that jazz. Right, we'll go with 30 million then. Right, I think that's fair. I think because it's Saudi clubs as well.
Yeah.
He is a 5-time Champions League winner. He's going to bring attention to the Saudi league because of the kudos he's got. I think you can get 30 million quid for him. I think if he was to go anywhere else other than Saudi, like if he was to go back to Spain or Europe or to South America, I don't think you get anywhere near that money for him. No. Talking of players, Champions League winners, linked with a move to a Saudi Arabian club, Raphael Varane, another one who's not at his peak anymore, it's safe to say, has had a torrid time with injuries, still a very good player. We've seen that even this season. I love Raphael Varane. I think you can see the qualities there. It's just injuries and age catching up with him a little bit. How reliant you can be on him, I'm not too sure, and I think he might be one that the club go, if there's decent money on the table, you take it. Yeah,
I think so. With Varane, he's now, I think 30. And
yeah, I think so. We'll check that.
Yeah, we'll double check. But just, I think obviously him coming in, him and Lisandro Martinez, without a doubt, when those two are fit, our strongest centre-back partnership, like he's just mint, to use your vocabulary.
Yeah, there you go.
But he's like the most naturally gifted defender we have, but the best ability is availability, and I don't think we've seen enough in that regard, and is because obviously injuries and perhaps at the tail end of his career.
Yeah.
So I'm not too sure really what's the next step for him. I am thinking around 10 to 15 mil.
Oh.
But how much did we bring him in for? Do you remember?
I think it was
47?
Yeah, around 40 odd million.
So we're making a massive loss.
We are. I just wonder, right, because he's 30, which isn't that old, because he could feasibly go to, I don't know, maybe he could go back to France, maybe he could go back to Spain. I think there's a lot of clubs that would be happy to have a Raphael Varane. Even United keeping him, I don't think, would be the end of the world. He's a very good defender. No. It's just more about his injury record than his ability. And you said, the best ability is availability. I think you could get 20 million quid for him, from Saudi especially, because I think there's a 30-year-old player there who has probably got at least 2 or 3 years minimum left in him. So I'd say 20. I think you get 20.
100%.
Yeah.
Like you said, I actually don't want us to sell him at the end of this summer, just because we do still need backup options. That's if we do bring in a young centre back, and I don't know if we will. I think obviously we need it. We need a couple of defenders.
We've been linked with a lot, haven't we?
Yeah, we have, but yeah, it just depends.
I agree with you to a certain degree. I think Casemiro, I get a little bit more. I feel like at 32, I think he's been patchy for United. I'm sorry, I know a lot of people disagree. I just think he has. Yeah, I think he's had almost as many bad games as good ones, and I don't think he's going to get better. Or he's not in his ascendancy. I think Varane, especially if 1 or 2 defenders, were like, if for example Lindelöf goes, we'll get to him a little bit later on. If Maguire goes, if Johnny Evans doesn't get his contract extended because he's 35. Also, some of the younger players we don't know, the jury might be still out, like Willy Cambuala. So we might need Varane. But if we do sell him, I think it's 20 million. This one is the most controversial one, I think, because this is a player who's had a very good season for United, scored so many goals. I just wonder, and part of me wonders with Scott McTominay, whether he's going to be happy not starting for Manchester United. He's 26, I think, now. He's still not a starter. And also, when Mason Mount is fit, because he's been injured for practically the whole season, I think McTominay might even be further down the pecking order. And I just wonder whether he might be like, look, no, I'm not going to sit around waiting for my chance at United when I've been here for 6 years or whatever in the first team. So I think he might end up going. He did nearly join West Ham in the summer. I'm not saying he should. I think the amount of goals he scored, you're probably better off keeping him around just as an option. But if he does go, you could get a few quid for him.
He was heavily linked with Newcastle as well, I believe.
Yep.
And to be honest, they could deal with a couple more midfielders given their injuries at the moment. But with McTominay, it's so weird because I have a soft spot for him, because this season we've seen him especially kind of pop up in those big moments. And how many times has he scored? Wasn't he our highest goal scorer?
I think.
I don't know if Hoyland's.
I think he's at around 8 or 9 goals. 9 goals or something that somebody's got, and a lot of those have been match-winning goals as well. Yeah,
like that Brentford game in particular.
Brentford game. I think there was the Villa game away from home.
Wolves, he scored.
Wolves. There's Chelsea at home. Like, he scored some big goals, Scott McTominay, this season. And he's obviously, useful, but I just find that when he starts, we lack a little something. I know that sounds harsh because obviously Scott McTominay scores goals, come through the ranks, was Jose Mourinho's player of the year. But I don't know, man. I just feel that he might look at it and go, I don't want to just be coming off the bench and wasting the rest of my career as a sub for United side that's struggling.
I think even if we wanted to keep him, I think he would probably push for the move just because his role has been reduced to being on the bench, being that late arriver in the penalty box, and we've seen him be effective in that way. I don't know if he has that proper spatial awareness, passing ability to be a number 6. As a number 8, I don't see it either, particularly with, obviously, I think Kobe Mainoo can develop 100%. As an incredible box-to-box midfielder. So I think we could get good money for him. I'm thinking around the 40 mil mark, and that might be a lot. But I still think that teams in the Prem absolutely 100%. Would want him.
I think he's got 10 goal involvements in all competitions this season, which can't be ignored for a midfielder as well. So, I think you could probably get... there was talk of him going for around 40 million in the summer, and he's had a good season in terms of what he's produced. So I won't be surprised if you got 45 million, especially someone like Newcastle who, yes, they've got to watch FFP, but they've got money. One player you might struggle to get decent money for.
Here we go.
Someone who is a contender for one of the biggest flops in Premier League history. I know that sounds harsh. I don't like saying it about United players, but we just massively overpaid for him, and it's not his fault. He didn't ask us to pay this money for him. I'm talking about Antony. We paid around 75, 80 million for him, going up to 100 million, I think euros, rather than pounds, thank God. Depending on, sort of what certain points that he meets, certain achievements he has at United, which I don't think he's going to meet, so I don't think we're going to end up paying 100 million for him. But I do feel like we are going to have to take a massive loss. I don't think he's got much of a United future. How much do you reckon we'll get for him if we sell him?
Oh gosh, I just can't get over the price tag for how much we brought him in. Like, I think that's criminal, to be quite honest.
I think
and obviously,
it's a good way to describe it. That deal, it's terrible.
United tax as well. Like, no other club, I don't think, would have paid that much for.
It was idiotic as well, because one of the reasons that Ajax didn't have to sell him was because we'd already bought Lisandro Martinez off him for 56 million quid. So they had money. They'd sold a load of other players as well. So they were like, look, we don't need to sell him. We don't want to sell him. So we had to force the issue. And instead of walking away from the deal when it got to 40 million quid, we went double that, which is just insane. And
like, why are we that dumb in the transfer market? Like, considering Antony obviously hadn't played in the Premier League before, you were taking a bit of a gamble, like, and obviously it did not pay off. I think we'll be very lucky to make around 15, 20 mil. I don't see him going for much more, and I don't think it'll be certainly don't think it'll be to another English club.
No, I don't think so. I'm not being horrible. I'm not trying to be funny here.
Yeah.
I don't think another Premier League club would have him.
No.
I don't. And that amazes me. I don't think I've ever said that about a Manchester United player, or very rarely.
But like, what does he actually offer? Like, when he does come off the bench, like, I'm just not, like, he just runs down the flank and...
I think, to be fair, right, if we're being sort of, a little bit, more objective, you think, okay, especially in that first season, he scored some goals, not many, but
against
he scored
Arsenal, that was
he scored, I think, 3 in his first 3 games. Scored against, was it Barca he scored against? Could keep possession quite well, was willing to do the defensive work as well. But then you watch him sort of, not just this season, but big chunks of last season as well, very wasteful in terms of his shooting and his final ball. And it's usually always a shot, it's usually off target. Doesn't really sort of fill you with confidence when he's coming off the bench. If you look at someone like... when Garnacho was coming off the bench, you felt like something was going to happen. Like, there was a goal 100%. There was an assist, and we saw that. We saw it in big games, saw it in the derby last season at Old Trafford, we saw it against Fulham. I don't get that same feeling with Antony. I just don't. So, what we're saying, 20 mil? 25?
I think we'll be lucky.
I think you're
genuinely
right.
do.
I think the more he plays as well, I think the lower his value is. I hope he proves us wrong. I don't like to be too critical of the kid, because he has had pellers, but you've got to be honest about him. Let's go through some more as well. Victor Lindelöf. Just a player who seems to be in the United team quite a lot because others are always injured. And I just think, is it not time to admit that Victor Lindelöf just isn't good enough?
I feel for him in a way, because obviously now we've seen him kind of be shoehorned as, as a left back. But he's kind of that, like, fourth choice
I don't like seeing him a left back, and it's not his fault because he's not a left back. But you're right. In terms of centre backs, I think Maguire, Varane, Martinez, even Luke Shaw as a centre-back are probably all ahead of him.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't really see a future there for Victor Lindelöf.
We see the lack of lapses of concentration at times, and just, I don't think his physicality matches up to what you need to be in this United team. So I can see him going over to Spain, possibly. Hasn't he been linked with a few clubs over there?
Been linked with Barcelona, which would be a bit of a move, wouldn't it?
I'm not too sure if that's going to happen.
If he does, he's got a good agent. He can go from 5th choice at United to playing for Barcelona. So what are we saying for Victor Lindelöf?
15 mil.
I think that's fair. I think you could probably still get something for him.
Yeah.
Got a lot of, experience. He's not that old as well. And he's not terrible. He's just not quite the levels you need.
No.
Aaron Wan-Bissaka.
I think a move back to Crystal Palace wouldn't be terrible for him. And I think, obviously, now Diogo Dalot has done so well at right back, where Wan-Bissaka isn't getting a lot of minutes and actually hasn't played a lot of games for us this season as well. But I think 1v1, like, his defending is just outstanding. So I think we could make, a fair bit of money, and I'm thinking around 15 to 20 mil.
Wan-Bissaka, yeah, I think 20 million. Around that mark, you might get 25. He's still very, very talented, isn't he? Very
100%.
talented defender. In terms of tackling, that sort of signature trademark tackle he's got, he's probably one of the best in the world at it, going to ground. It's just...
The one criticism towards him is going forward. Like, can he provide those crosses into the box? But I actually think he has improved in that regard, like, in the attack. So,
and to be honest... Winger, wasn't he?
Yeah,
as a kid.
Yeah.
I know, it's
exactly.
mad, that, isn't it?
Isn't that crazy?
I think all fullbacks were wingers. I think every single fullback in this day and age, were wingers. It's mad. Like every single fullback you sort of hear of or look at, it's like they were wingers who basically moved backwards. Right, we'll go 20 million. I think we're falling short of 280 million if we're being brutally honest, but it's fine. Yeah. Harry Maguire.
Yeah.
How old's Harry Maguire now? Is he 30? 30 years old, I think. He's had a up and down career at United. He's done well for a little while, and then he's had a bit of a fall off, and then he had a little bit of a rejuvenation in November where he got Player of the Month. How much do you reckon? I think a lot depends on how he does for England in the Euros.
I was just going to say, like, for a lot of criticism he gets, it wasn't his fault that he was brought in for 80 mil. Obviously, the captaincy added a whole load more pressure on him. He's still playing for England. So if he has a good Euros, like, I can see, us getting a bit of money for it. But either way...
How much is a bit of money?
It's so hard because it's like... We paid 80 mil, so either way, it's devastating.
Do you know what it is, though, right? You're right.
It's just frustrating.
I get that point, but when you buy a player as well, and it's only fair to sort of... I don't know you know this, but I'm just sort of pointing out for anyone who doesn't. It's like, you're not just... When you pay 80 million for a player, like Harry Maguire, we've had, 4 seasons out of him now. So a bit that you're paying for those seasons. Like,
right.
So,
yeah.
Like, if Harry Maguire signs for 80 million, he signs a 5-year deal. That 80 million, you're paying for those 5 years. So even at the end, he leaves on a free transfer. That, you're not paying for...
he served the club.
Yeah, like that's what you've paid for him. Now the issue is we've overpaid for him.
Yeah,
because he wasn't worth that, and I don't think he was worth that at the time.
Yeah,
and especially when you look at the comparisons with Virgil van Dijk and all the rest of it, and coming into a team that was struggling. But I'm not too fussed if you're taking a loss on a player who's been here for 4 years and he's now 30 years old. I think you can sort of accept that.
Yeah, and I think just with the style of play that Ten Hag wants to play, obviously if he's still at the club next season, you do want to bring in a centre-back who's super confident on the ball, is able to make those proper line-breaking passes as we see Martinez do. And that's why I think in transition we're more effective when Lisandro Martinez is in the team. For Maguire, a little bit unsettled on the ball at times, and I often plays that passive pass, and I don't think helps us properly be a team that's good when we're trying to play out from the back. So if he goes to a side that's more leaning towards a counter-attack, then I think he could, still have him.
So what we're saying, how much are you saying for Harry Maguire?
Oh, I reckon, let's say 45 mil.
45 million.
Is that a lot?
He'd have to have a very good Euros. He'd have to score you the winning goal in the final after dancing through the opposition defence. Yeah, maybe that could happen. I'd be surprised, but
yeah,
it does happen with players. They have a good competition in for their country, especially in England. And people look at it and go, well, look, he got United to third, he got United to second. He's a very good player for England. He's still only 30. I don't think his game is based around pace anyway, so I don't think he's going to be falling off a cliff in terms of his performances once he gets to 31, 32. So maybe you can get 45 mil. It might be a little bit ambitious, but stranger things have happened. Donny van der Beek, how much are you getting from him? He's not going to have a career at United. He's going in it. Are we going to get any dough for him?
Bless him. I genuinely did forget that he was in the team still.
I mean, I think everyone forgot about Donny van der Beek, and at one point he was looked at as the saviour of our football club.
At one point, wasn't it just like, when is Donny coming
Honestly,
on the pitch?
Every player who doesn't play is the answer to our problems.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? And obviously Donny van der Beek wasn't.
I mean, I think he, from what I see, he's had a kid now, so everything's going well in his personal life, which is good to see. Just I haven't seen much of him on the pitch, unfortunately. So I think we'll be lucky to get a couple mil.
Right, you're going to 2 million for Donny van der Beek. And it's mad because he's still in his 20s, and he was a Ballon d'Or nominee when he was at Ajax. And it was just it is crazy. I think you're right. I'm going to name a few players now, right? because we've got a few players that we've probably not had on this list who may go in the summer, and I just want you to give me a total for them. So that way, if we're wrong or we're out for some of these, we've got a few others we can throw into the mix. And you can tell me if you think they're going to stay as well, right? Facundo Palestra.
I think he might go.
How much?
5 mil.
5 mil.
That's actually a lot, but
I think that's reasonable.
Yeah.
He's a decent player, just probably not the levels you need.
Yeah.
He's a good kid as well. It's a shame. Hannibal Mejbri. I think we paid about 10 million for him, didn't we?
Yeah, it's a bit insane. You know what? I love him just because he just has that shithousery about him.
Kick scousers on Anfield.
Yeah, that for me, that was the highlight of that season. Like, honestly, he was man of the match performance. So for that, I would like to see him stay.
Right. Oh, you want to see him stay? Right. Okay. Amad Diallo.
I love Amad. I think like when we brought on Forsen against, in the derby, I would have liked to see Amad come on. I'm not saying he's the saviour.
A lot of people would agree on you.
Yeah, but I just think, from what he's shown on his loan spell over at Sunderland, like, I think we should keep him.
Keep him, okay. Yeah. Another players here now you're not going to get much money for, but I'll mention him anyway. Brandon Williams.
I mean, I think he can leave.
He can leave. How much do you reckon you get for him?
Less than 5 mil.
I
want to say, is that reasonable?
A couple of mil maybe. He's a good young player.
Yeah, I'm not.
I think he's more. Championship seems to be where he's settling. I know he's been at loan at Ipswich. Alvaro Fernandez.
I tell you what, it probably annoys me that we let go of all our left backs as well. I think he'll probably leave. Yeah. Again, not for much. 2 mil.
2 mil. Yeah, I think that's about right. I mean, I don't know a lot about him. I know he's highly rated, but obviously we need left backs, like you say. It's annoying that we keep letting him go. He doesn't seem to be in the manager's plans. I mean, a new manager might come in and love him, but I think you'll probably get a couple of mil for him. You're not going to get loads from him, especially for a left back. It's not like it's a position where you go, oh, he scores loads of goals or he's a huge talent. Nalin, I've loved that. We seem to have got probably a little bit under 280 million, but there's a little bit of dough there for Erik ten Hag or the new manager to play with. If he sells some of the players, who knows? He might go into off the deep end and decide to sell. I don't know. Marcus Rashford is a name that keeps getting bandied about. We haven't put him on our list, right?
On the list.
You refuse to have him on the list. I'm kind of with you. I don't think we're going to sell him anyway, so that's why I've not put him on the list. You may disagree. Get involved in the comments in the chat. Let us know whether you think someone like Marcus should be on that list. Any of the players we mentioned, whether we've overpriced him, underpriced him, anyone else we've missed out. Don't forget as well to hit like, share, and subscribe. That's been Nalin. I've been Jay. This has been a look at Manchester United's potential outgoings and how we can raise 280 million for the manager in the summer. Thanks for watching.